Okay, so I was born in 1962. That makes me 52 years old at the moment. I'll soon be 53. And the year after I was born, in 1963, the federal government passed the Equal Pay Act. And it had a lot of intentions, all of them well-meaning. One of them was to ensure gender pay equity, that women would make as much as men for doing the same job. And 52 years later, in the United States of America, women still statistically are shown to make 23% less than men for doing the same work. It's not right. And the City of Albuquerque is actually the first city in the country that's taken a proactive, incentivized approach to solving that issue that we all know is so important. And why is it so important is because we know that a record number of women in our workforce, in fact, 2/3 of women function as the primary or co-breadwinners for their families in the United States. And the fact that they are doing great work and not being compensated as fairly as they could be in some circumstances is something that we want to try to solve. So we had options. 52 years ago, we decided to use a punitive measure with a regulation to try to force people to do that, and it hasn't worked. So what we're doing in the City of Albuquerque, and what we started last August of 2013, was a first of its kind incentivization to have our local companies understand that it's an important issue. And we know a lot of local businesses, and it is an important issue to them. We want them to know that there's a carrot, not just a stick. That if they can show that they are taking gender pay equity seriously, that their businesses can even do better. So last August, we passed legislation, as I said, the first of its kind in the country. We were soon followed by Boston and other major American cities. More to come. The president's talked a lot about this as well, with legislation that did two things. We put funding in place. We planted the flag and said, this is going to be important to Albuquerque. We're going to incentivize this. We funded it, and we set the mission statement in place. At that point, we set up a task force. And we brought some women to the task force that are national leaders, like Dr. Martha Burke, who couldn't be with us today. Clara Apodaca, former First Lady of New Mexico, was on that task force. Jeanette Candelaria is on that task force. Debbie Stover, who couldn't be here today, and City Councilor Diane Gibson. Did I miss any task force members? I think we got the task force members in there. And this all started actually at dinner. Christmas, 3 years ago?
Years ago.
So we were at a Christmas dinner at Clara's house, and Martha and I were at the table, and we started talking about this, and I was very interested. My wife was a business owner, and I understood some of the issues that she faced over time, and so they took us to last August to get to this point. So none of this stuff happens really that quickly, but we got to the point where we still were first in the country to do this. So now where we find ourselves on Monday night, Councilor Gibson and co-sponsor Councilor Pena and co-sponsor Harris, on a bipartisan basis, will actually be taking the task force findings that these ladies came up with and brought to me late last year, and we will solidify this in the City of Albuquerque. Here's how it's going to work in short terms. If you are a company in the City of Albuquerque and you want to be a vendor with our city, there's a form that we'll have you help us fill out to show that you are taking gender equity seriously in your company. If you can show that you have gender equity less than 10%. Now remember, the federal right now is 23% nationally. The City of Albuquerque, we did a study with our organization, my organization, a year ago, and we're within 7%. So we're much better than the national average. But if local companies can prove that they're within 10%, and this is a form that already exists, it's already out there, it's already being used at federal and state levels in some cases, we are going to give you a 5% preference on bidding with the City of Albuquerque, and that's a big advantage. So we wanted to do this in a way that wasn't overly burdensome to business. So the task force did a great job. They invited business to the table, and business came and put their input as well. So we think we have a solution that will incentivize the right things. It'll bring gender equity, pay equity to the forefront. It puts our city as a national leader for the right reasons. It lets us tell that story nationally, that we care about women, that we care about this issue, that we care about equity in the City of Albuquerque. It can only bode well for attracting additional talent to our city and helping those that are in our city today, women business owners and women professionals and others, thrive. So it'll be introduced on Monday night in the City Council. We will hope that we get robust support from our city councilors for this, because we know It's an important issue. We know it's the right thing to do, and we think we're doing it the right way, in a way that works with business to, like I say, incentivize the right behavior. With that, I'm going to have Councilor Gibson say a few words, and if anybody from the task force would like to add to that, we can do that. Apologize for the podium.
I'll stand on my toes.
Yeah. Come on up, Councilor Gibson.
Thank you, Mayor Barry. I was very pleased and proud to be serving on the pay equity on this committee, and very proud of the work that we did. I'd like to extend my gratitude to the other task force members and for all of the commitment that they showed throughout the meetings and coming up with a good way of delivering this. Also, the HR office, Human Rights Office, Gabe Campos and his staff were very valuable in helping us achieve our goals. And I'd like to acknowledge Mayor Barry for making this a priority. This is important, not only for Albuquerque, but I think it sends a message throughout the nation that we take this seriously. This is a priority, and we are going to help make that work here in Albuquerque, in part by raising the awareness among employers who are doing business with the city of Albuquerque, giving them an opportunity and a chance to really think about the pay scale that they have their employees on. We worked really hard to make this not an onerous or labor-laden endeavor for them to do, and as the mayor says, that we've incentivized this so that we can, show them that the city of Albuquerque is willing to show them incentives in order to achieve pay equity among men and women. So again, thank you very much, and very happy for this day.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson. We appreciate it. And I want to reiterate my thank you to our Human Rights Office, Gabe and Annabelle Romero. We brought them in early on this process and said, we're going to make this happen, and it's going to be a heavy lift, but we're going to figure it out, and you did. So thanks for your diligence. Anybody? Martha Burke was the chairman of the task force. She's out of town today. I think she's in Washington. Clara, or would anybody else like to say anything?
Well,
Briefly?
I just want to say that being Women's History Month, this is very appropriate today. Albuquerque is really going to become a national example. And I just want to say on behalf of Martha Burke and myself, and I speak for all the members of the task force, that we were honored to serve on Mayor Barry's task force, and we thank him for the opportunity. And his staff was absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Clara. And thanks again to all the task force members. This was a lot of work and a lot of meetings. And I sat in on one or two. I tried to not interfere, but let the work get done, and you guys did a lot of hard work. So with that, we'll be happy to entertain any questions. And then, of course, Monday night will be the introduction to the City Council, and you'll be able to follow those discussions on the council through the committee process as well. Does anybody have any specific questions?
How does the 5% work? If I assume you're evaluating proposals, and if somebody has 100 points, they would get boosted to 105? Or?
Correct. Well, the legislation, we'll get you a copy of the legislation, but that's for all intents and purposes, that's correct. So the way it works, first of all, we start with an understanding, and I've had conversations with local business owners as late as this week. Many, if not most, of our local business leaders already take this seriously, and I think what we're going to find is a lot of these vendors already meet the criteria, which is good. But for those who maybe haven't given it much thought or who don't, this will be an incentive for them to get on the wagon. Let's get this thing figured out. And so what we'll do when you bid with the City of Albuquerque, you'll get basically a 5% a preference. And there are other preferences that we have at the City of Albuquerque. For example, we have a veterans preference. We have some other preferences that we give to try to incentivize people to and help them thrive in the City of Albuquerque. So it will be the same exact format as that. And it will be an additional incentive to do it with this area. So yes, I guess the short answer is you'll have a 5% advantage on pricing on those things that we buy from a commodity standpoint. And so that's the way it'll work. And I'll give you the exact language, but the language basically matches the other incentives that we have. So it'll be the same process.
If so many businesses locally already meet that criteria, where do the need come from?
Well, I'm just stating my confidence. I'm stating my confidence. We know nationally that 23% less pay, women are making 70 cents on the dollar to do the same work nationally as men. We know that's not right. We know that Albuquerque is a place where we want women to thrive, and we can fix it. And we're going to do it with a carrot, not a stick. We're going to do it with incentives versus regulation. When I say that I have a lot of confidence, that I know a lot of local business owners, my wife and I were one. We took this very seriously at our company, but that we also know that there's a reason that the United States has a 23% discrepancy. The state of New Mexico is a little bit better than the national average, but not as good as the city of Albuquerque. So we know there's work to be done, and we're confident that this will help us get there.
And is the council legislation all you need to put this in place?
Yeah, so we
You have
basically
to rely on the state to
No.
do anything?
No, this will be done through the purchasing department at the City of Albuquerque. And there already is there's a state form that has been developed. So once again, we didn't want to, as Councilor Gibson said, we didn't want to be burdensome for our businesses. This is the information and data that they have. This is a form that's already out there. It's just no municipalities in the country have really taken this upon themselves to do this. And so we are already getting, according to Martha Burke and others, we are already getting inquiries from cities and counties around the country asking us how we're doing this. And like anything else, I come from the legislative background, and now as an executive, policy matters, and the way we craft policy matters. So we wanted, and I asked the task force, please take into account, call business to the table, take into account the fact that people are going to have to do this work. Make it as simple as you can, make it as understandable as you can, as clear cut as you can, and I think they've done a wonderful job in doing that by adopting what's already out there from a formatting standpoint.